Hello, everyone. I was off from last week's show. I forgot to hit the intro music, so that shows
Whoa,
how
there it is.
rusty I am there. Welcome to Grid Live Encore. It's been a crazy last half hour. We've got some breaking news from the Cup Series to discuss, and we'll get into that here in just a moment. But first, Brandon, good to see you again. How's it going, my man?
Going all right, and good to see you from last week, Ben. It's good to have you back on the show. And that reminds me, maybe we need to get something in the works for next year, a different breaking news sort of intro. Since we're having intro music in this year, maybe we can have some sort of special theme whenever we have breaking news like we do this evening.
Yes, well, let's get into that breaking news here. And I just want everybody watching this to understand I have absolutely no game plan. I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth here. I'm just going to turn it over to Brandon first and continue to try to formulate that in my mind because I certainly have some thoughts, but I want to make sure I'm coherent here. Ryan Blaney's sixth place finish that was originally taken away from him through disqualification in the Cup Series race yesterday has been restored. NASCAR stating that there was an issue with one of their technical inspection templates that caused Blaney to fail tech. They said, our bad, we'll give you your sixth place points back and restore the playoff picture to what we originally thought it was after the conclusion of the race. Brandon, what is your reaction to this latest development?
So I want to go back to the original penalty there. When they took it in the post race, they found the left front shock did not meet the overall specified length in section 14.11.3.5 of the NASCAR rulebook, and that is from NASCAR.com, not from my brain. So credit there where it's due. But then they took it to the R&D Center in Concord and figured out that it wasn't an issue somehow. So for a few hours today, Ryan Blaney was having the worst day of his year, just in agony of, oh man, now I'm, on the very bottom of everything. But now he is back in a decent spot there in the round of 8. And I don't like this because you talk about consistency. This is the very opposite of that thing because we were just applauding NASCAR, I think, just a couple of weeks ago for I already forgot who it was. That's how quickly these things go around. But it was something where, they'll penalize the most favorite driver. They'll penalize the nobody. They don't discriminate. They will penalize if a part is wrong, even if it denies Chase Elliott the Daytona 500 win. If there's something wrong with the car in post-race inspection, they're not going to make any, we can let it slip this one time, or, hey, NASCAR, I've got $10 million here. Let's let this slip one time, huh? They're not going to do that. And I call back to something Dave Moody said a couple weeks ago as well. He was responding to a caller who was asking about this. Would NASCAR ever let something slide? He said, no, it's in so many words. No, if they did that, they would never do that. The day that NASCAR would do that, they would cease to be a credible sport. That's just that. He just assured this caller that is not going to happen. So I guess the tweet we saw this evening from Denny Hamlin, heck, I just don't know anymore either.
Well, let me clarify, Brandon. That's a tweet from March. That's a tweet from March when Denny was going through his appeal process. And
sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I wasn't looking at the context there. I thought that was from today.
No, I pulled that tweet back out whenever something like this happens, and it's
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes there. I guess I'll just to be clear to the viewers, this was just news to me that it was restored as we were getting onto the show this evening. All I saw today was that he was penalized. And so I have not been keeping up with it at all. So I know Ben probably has some more. So let's let the cat out and talk about it.
Well, I'm like Denny Hamlin. That's why I pulled that tweet back out. I don't even know anymore. I don't understand. There's so much to this, and I'm trying to pull up. Let me pull up Bob Pockrass's tweet. I know he had the official statement from NASCAR here as to why the decision was made. After further review of the inspection process throughout this weekend's events at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, NASCAR has rescinded the number 12 disqualification penalty. Monday morning during its race weekend debrief, NASCAR discovered an issue with the damper template used for inspection. NASCAR then conducted a detailed investigation and has restored the number 12 stage and race finishing positions from Sunday. NASCAR has taken internal steps to remedy this issue moving forward. And actually, here's a statement from Team Penske as well. We are pleased with the decision by NASCAR to rescind the post-race disqualification from a number 12 car following Sunday's race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. NASCAR has shown a tremendous amount of integrity throughout the process, which has led to this conclusion. We are proud of the effort and the results by the number 12 team during the 2023 season. We look forward to continuing the pursuit of a NASCAR Cup Series championship. Well, it's not like that pursuit had been taken away. They still could have won either one of the next two races, and then this penalty would have been completely meaningless to begin with. That's just the nature of this win in your in system. But
it would have been a lot more difficult. But yeah,
NASCAR says, okay, it's our bad. We had an issue with template. That's what caused you guys to fail. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was only one car disqualified from Sunday's race, right? It's number 12 of Ryan Blaney.
Yeah.
So that says to me that regardless of whether or not the template was 100% accurate per the NASCAR rulebook or not, the number 12 was still slightly different in that regard than the rest of the 35 cars out on the track, right? What if NASCAR truly had an issue with this template, why didn't, maybe not every car, but why didn't like 10 cars fail? Like if 10 cars failed tech and we had 10 disqualifications and we said, oh, this is an unprecedented situation, maybe we should take a look at this. Oh, wait a second, that our template was slightly off. Okay, that's on us. That's an honest mistake. We'll, take the blame on that one. Everybody can have their results back because you were actually within the rules. Our template was off. I don't understand how the 12 was still the only car that didn't pass tech inspection, unless they were testing an area of a 12 car that, they didn't test for everybody else. But, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I'll full disclosure, I don't work behind the scenes. I'm not a technical inspection official. I don't have a copy of a NASCAR rulebook right in front of me. But I am left with so many more questions than answers after this process. And this last part of NASCAR's statement saying we're taking steps to really ensure that something like this doesn't happen again going forward. You better. I mean, think of people like us that are coming on the air with our stories to analyze these races and analyze the current playoff picture and what this means for all the different drivers and the standings and how the rest of the season is going to play out. And so we finish the race and we go on air and we have our wrap-up show yesterday and we say, oh man, Ryan Blaney, I know he had a decent run today, but he's really missing those playoff points because the Fords have been off all year compared to the Chevys and Toyotas, and he's got some work to do. It's not officially a must-win, but it's probably a must-win if we're being honest, given the strength of his playoff field. Oh, wait a second, crap, he got disqualified. Oh my goodness, it is definitely a must-win situation then. He's almost a full race back with winning both stages. He's definitely got to win one of the next two races to punch his ticket of a championship for. He better win now. Oh, wait a second. They actually took the disqualification back. So everything that we were talking about before we went off the air when we got the breaking news yesterday, that's actually the true story now. So we can go back and delete everything that we undeleted to make room for the new stuff. That now has to be deleted because they changed their mind. They took the blame. And we talk all the time about how this system is designed to be more entertaining for the casual racing fan and guarantee that the championship's going to go down in the last race and we're going to maintain interest from the casual sports fan, right? What do you think the casual sports fan is thinking of all this circus right now that Ryan Blaney finished 6th? Oh, wait a second. He actually finished 36th because he had an illegal car. Oh, wait a second. The car wasn't illegal. NASCAR's template was off, so he does finish 6th again. I mean, that can't be the standard going forward. We're not going to know what the results are. We're not going to know who our race winners and champions are until 24, 48 hours after the fact.
Yeah, that's really a big issue, and it's not good. It's just not good. It's not what you wanted to happen. I really didn't know we still had even I guess I was ignorant on this. I didn't know we still had a physical template piece still going around in post-race inspection. I've been seeing the laser light show for a couple of years. I thought that's how we were doing most of our inspection. And
I guess different parts of the car.
Different. And I thought the pieces like this that are physical template pieces were down to a minimum, and maybe this is just one of the few that's left as a physical template inspector. I just don't know all the details about this to know, honestly, Ben. I don't know how you mess up a damper template in the first place.
Well, and look, I'll give credit where it's due. The last several disqualifications, NASCAR's had like this kind of show and tell process where they've gone through exactly what was wrong. Like Kevin Harvick a couple weeks ago at Talladega, your
On YouTube,
fasteners weren't secure. Let's show you what we mean by that. Let's show you why this car failed tech. I mean, I better see that transparency here. I mean, I want to see exactly what went down that made NASCAR think that this car was out of line per the rule book enough to warrant a disqualification. And then 24 hours later, I'm still, the news just broke right before we came on the show here. So I don't think Penske even began to launch. I don't know if they issued a statement yesterday as to whether or not they were going to go through the appeal process or if they were still deciding to do that. But I think NASCAR just came out and restored it. We've seen appeals go through before and finishes be restored. We've seen appeals reduce the severity of penalties in the past based on how the appeals panel heard both sides of the argument. I can't recall. I mean, Brandon, you can chime in here if something comes to mind for you. I'm with Adam here in the chat. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen NASCAR on their own doing without any sort of appeal process say, hey, our mistake. Here's your points back or here's your win back. I can't recall anything like that happening.
This actually is probably a good thing because this is one of the things I've kind of had to irk about, that NASCAR really is, in a way, unapologetic in their decisions. And whether it's right or wrong, they're never going to backtrack and say, oh, what we did was maybe not the right decision. You know, they're always going to move forward, continue moving forward. We like what we're seeing. But if it truly was messed up, I'm glad they actually for once took a step back and said what we did there was wrong. But yeah, I'm with you. I really hope we get a YouTube video that's 10 minutes long, in full detail, cutaway car, explaining exactly what they saw, what they thought they saw, and then what they actually saw.
Yeah, well, and Joe Samaniego talking about yesterday's show, I remember while we were on the air wondering why the results were not official. It did seem like tech inspection was taking a little bit longer. We even had a longer window between the race finish and when we went on the air. Yeah, I guess we understand now, or we thought we understood when we got the news of Blaney's disqualification yesterday, which is now completely irrelevant because it's been taken back. So I don't know. We'll continue to follow this. I'm sure that if more significant developments happen, Kobe and the rest of the Grid Tonight team will have you covered on Wednesday night. I don't want to speak for what his show is going to consist of. That's going to be his decision because it's his show. But I would assume that if something significant happens in the next 24 to 48 hours, we'll provide you with an update then. In the meantime, I guess
the worst thing that could happen after this is also like going back again. I mean, that would be like, okay, stop, please fire somebody. This has to be fixed.
Yeah, that would be, there you go. That would be a fireable offense, I think, for whoever's making that. Because, I mean, at some point, either the car is illegal or it's not. You decided it was illegal, then you decided, well, it was an issue on our end that made us think it was illegal, so we'll take the blame for that. It's actually not. You can't change your mind again. This better be, like, I just tweeted last car on Brock Beer before we came onto the show. I mean, he's had to do rewrites before. I don't know if he's had to do a double rewrite before for a third update to the last place finisher.
Yeah, and as important as the media are, they're not taking the media into account in any of this. Like that's the last. Sure. That's the last part. That's the last thing in their mind.
And I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying that when you do change your mind 2 or 3 times, I mean,
there are consequences.
How do you keep track of what's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, TV producers on NASCAR Race Hub and all that, they're pulling their hair out right now, and all the different news beat, they're also doing the same. So there is that repercussion that's unfortunate.
Everybody's deadline stories that they had to get out are completely wrong and irrelevant now. One more comment, Joe Samaniego. So an updated last car, and there you go, the grid ranking
and the grid rating.
NASCAR's grid rating that place into the grid ranking. I guess it's a good thing because the ranking that we showed on the air, I guess, is the official ranking now because it will just go back. But, Joe had to go through and make those calculations. I mean, it's tiring. It's just so tiring. And I hope that we get a thorough. I mean, this can't be a weekly sort of deal here. And
I'm sure not.
2 times, and I'm sure it won't be. But this is 2 times in the last 3 weeks that we've had a disqualification, and I would say about as often as not, these disqualifications result in some sort of appeal process. But apparently, sometimes you don't even need an appeal process. NASCAR will just give you the points back. I don't know.
If they decide for themselves that they made a mistake.
Yep.
And if they don't, then the team is obligated to insist that they did and force them to review it, like we saw a couple of weeks ago.
I'll tell you what. I just got a message from Matthew Owens before we came on the air here. Apparently, Dale Jr. quote tweeted Dustin Long's tweet with a "We are back, baby" gif here. So I don't know if Dale had Ryan Blaney going to the championship 4, or if he's just a Ryan Blaney fan himself. I don't know what that means necessarily,
okay.
But we'll roll with that there. I'll probably follow up with Matthew after the show, unless he's in the chat room here, because I know he's a friend of the show, frequently watches it. So we'll see if he pops in. But in the meantime.
Are we about to move out of the Cup Series?
We are, yeah.
Okay,
yep.
One more thing here.
Sure.
I did see that Kevin Harvick is, well, you may already know, I just found it out, that Budweiser will be returning as a sponsor for Kevin Harvick at Homestead. Yes. I don't know when that broke today, but that's really nice of them. It looks just like his Miami championship car in 2014. But Budweiser has always been really nice to the examples we have anyway, Dale Jr. doing that whole commercial for him and be nice with him on his retirement. So it's really cool to see that. And I saw someone complaining, why not have it at the championship race at Phoenix? I had the confused face. I was like, because he won the championship at Miami, maybe?
Yeah.
But,
Well, they got it exactly right, except for the fact that the numbers move forward.
Okay.
That bothers me.
Okay.
That's going to bother me a little bit, but
moving on. Stewart-Haas does it the best out of the entire Cup field. So moving on.
Yes. And while we have a moment, that Budweiser tribute to Dale Jr. you brought up, Brandon, I guess I have to bring it up because I didn't realize until a couple years after I saw that, and I actually did more research on the band that sings that song, The Night We Met by Lord Huron. Did you know the lead singer of that band, his name is actually Ben Schneider?
No way. Oh, cool.
Go look it up after the show.
All right.
I had no idea for like 2 years until I, finally dug a little bit deeper and figured that out.
Yeah.
All right. We move on now to the series that we normally cover here on this show. Let's talk about.
Thank goodness.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, I guess, unless it spills over 24 hours later into the disqualification show. But
it usually does.
Let's talk about Riley Herbst. Give him a ton of credit, went out and won by almost 15 seconds. A good old spanking of the field here in the Xfinity Series. And Brandon, I got to do it to you. I apologize. I had to eat some Fernando Alonso crow earlier this year. I'm going to make you eat some Riley Herbst crow right here, right now.
I got my bowl.
I'll say he won't get it this season. Now, I might be proved wrong, and I probably will be proved wrong, but I don't know if the consistency is there. I still want to say I don't think Riley Herbst is going to win the rest of the season. It's still on my mind. I still don't think he's going to make it.
Riley Herbst rounding out a good day with the top 10, although nothing against the team. I personally think I'm still holding with my prediction a few weeks ago that he's not going to get a victory this year. I still think it's going to elude them somehow, but I'd love to be proven wrong as always.
Are we back on?
Yes, we are.
Well,
I'll tell you,
what a jerk that guy was, right?
What
a jerk. What? Forget that guy. Riley Herbst is an awesome race car driver. Did I mention that?
He certainly was on Saturday. I mean, 15 seconds is there is no arguing this one. He absolutely earned it. But we'll go to you first here, Brandon. What do you have to say about Riley Herbst and how much of a statement win this was by that entire number 98 team on the heels of them announcing they're continuing their relationship going into 2024?
Yeah, that's weird how that matches up, isn't it? Get the contract extension with Stewart-Haas. Tony Stewart sees something in this kid, sees something in Riley Herbst. So does Monster Energy. And so he goes out there and gets the storybook result of the year. You win at your home track. That's really cool for Riley Herbst. And I didn't realize until you put that compilation together that I mentioned him 3 times. That's a little bit much. That's kind of almost as bad as I did Josh Berry last year on a positive side. I mentioned him too much last year. I guess this year my brain chose Riley Herbst to pick on. I'm sorry, Riley, if you ever see this. I don't know you personally, so but yeah, you showed me. You put the spanking on the field at Vegas, and all credit to you, man. Sorry you're not fighting for a championship, but that's good for you. And also next year you can keep that ride going. But I find it so weird that it lines up right with the announcement of the contract extension, and that just I guess was it just a drive of like, heck yeah, we get to stay here another year, let's go win this thing? Or like I mean, it feels like that's just too much of a fluke for that not to be some sort of motivation for the team and for Riley to kick it into high gear. But also, like, I need to see Custer finished 3rd, so there's his teammate.
Yeah. So
was it just fast equipment there for the Fords and SHR?
Yeah, I think that was certainly part of it. I mean, Custer being up there, second only, or I guess the only car that finished ahead of one of the Stewart-Haas cars was John Hunter Nemechek, and we've obviously been talking all year about how great he's been. I think that there was. I mean, you want to talk about expecting disqualification. I think the people that throw around all the terrible Herbst memes, they were saying, no, this can't. Riley Herbst's going to win by 15 seconds on pure pace on a mile and a half. But I can't do anything other than give him a lot of, because I've been critical at times as well. Riley's had some great equipment in his career. Joe Gibbs Racing now here with Stewart-Haas, and a big part of the Toyota and Ford development programs. Hadn't won a race yet. And we were starting to get to the point of wondering, well, is he ever going to win a race? And, there certainly isn't the equipment excuse. He won a couple races in ARCA, had some solid runs there, but since he's gotten into the Xfinity Series, he's never quite been able to break through. If this isn't a breakthrough, I don't know what is. This was not, the guy staying out on old tires and getting lucky on an overtime finish as the field wrecked behind him. This wasn't, a rain-shortened or lightning strike-assisted victory. This wasn't a fuel mileage race. He drove to the front, he stayed at the front, and he pulled away from the rest of the field by almost 15 full seconds there at the end. I think the previous record they said on the NBC broadcast was actually NBC's own Jeff Burton in 2002, I think won by something like 8 or so seconds. So he almost doubled that. Riley Herbst put on an absolute clinic, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. It's a shame that he's not in the postseason picture right now, because otherwise he'd be punching his ticket to have a shot at the title at Phoenix in a couple of weeks. But all credit where it's due. It was a phenomenal run for him, and we'll see what this does for him going forward. I can only imagine the shot in the arm and the morale boost that this is going to be for everybody on that 98 program heading into next year, having just announced that deal.
Yeah, that brought to mind, talking about Jeff Burton being the previous holder at Vegas. I remember something about him winning that race and then complaining about Las Vegas and cookie cutter tracks. He was like, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of this place, but we can win here, so that's fine.
It came up on Twitter this weekend, actually. I think Alan Cavano was doing a flashback to a 2007 Busch Series race at the time, which was actually the first race in the series I ever watched. And still, the thing that stands out most to me, Jeff Burton won that race as well, ironically enough, over Kyle Busch in a throwing finish that saw Kyle spin across the line in second. But you got to go down to Shane Huffman in 9th before you find the first series regular. And 26 of the 43 drivers in the field that day were Cup Series regulars. 26 and a half. You can throw Regan Smith in there, who was doing a partial schedule for Gann at the time. I always point back to that race. I say, like, when we complain about Cup drivers in the lower levels these days, like, just think back to where it was 16 years ago. And that is something else to think about there. But another thing that stands out to me from that race is Tony Stewart was being interviewed in the pre-race and said that they've absolutely, because that was the first race, I think, under a new configuration, and saying that they destroyed that track, and he was not a fan of what they did with it. And then he went out and I think finished 3rd that day too. So what do you know?
Yeah, it's people that hate it the most that are the best at it, I guess. Like Chip Ganassi loves winners. I love first-time winners. I hope that's a constant theme, and I don't show anything else on this show. No matter how much I talked about them, if it's a first-time winner, I'm game. I always love it. I always love that story, no matter who it is. I like Ty Gibbs' first win because I didn't know what he was going to become, but I loved his first win.
Well, that happened on debut. I mean, how often do you see that? And this wasn't like, Kurt Busch won in his series debut, but he had been a Cup regular for 6 years before that or whatever. Like, that was a true series debut in Xfinity, and he went out and took
unbelievable talent.
Yeah. I mean, we can criticize the guy's maturity and some of his, on-track behavior, but
kid can drive.
Yeah, you can't deny his talent. It's 100%, a fact there. All right, we move on now. Let's talk about the rest of the playoff picture. Move down the grid a little bit. You see Sheldon Creed down there in 15th, Sammy Smith in 17th. Not the days that they were hoping for in terms of trying to stay in the playoff picture with those number 2 RCR and number 18 JGR teams, respectively. So, Brandon, I'll point this question to you. You look at where they are in the standings right now. It's not mathematically a must-win, still with 2 races to go. But are they already, for all intents and purposes, basically must-win situations if they want a shot at a championship at Phoenix?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're in must-win scenarios for this. And Sheldon Creed not really in a good spot because he's not coming back there next year, and that feels a lot like a Ty Dillon seat to me. But we'll have to wait and see. And then Sammy Smith, I remember in his post-race interview with PRN, he was really kind of passive-aggressive, kind of complaining about the sloppy pit stops they had all day and kind of attributing that to his bad day. So he was really, I never really have heard him that frustrated yet. And so this really gave him a chance to be really dejected, and experience that at the Xfinity level. I don't think he's had too much to complain about yet, but this really upset Sammy, and it's just weird to hear. He's just like, yeah, he was like kind of like sarcastic about it, like, yeah, really bad day for us, like not what we needed at all. He was basically just talking about pit road a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure Sammy Smith would love to get to Phoenix, considering he won there in the spring and had a very solid performance there. I know it hasn't quite been the rookie season that he wanted, but he is still in the playoff picture. And Sheldon Creed the same way. We've been talking about Austin Hill maybe being the top challenger to John Hunter Nemechek in terms of how they've run all season. Sheldon Creed, I don't think it was too much of a surprise that he's stepping away. We'll see what his 2024 plans are in due process, I suppose. But excuse me, there's no denying he's been a little bit behind his teammate here, and of course he's still looking for his first win. Not much unlike Riley Herbst was up until this weekend, and I think is starting to kind of get some questions. And Sheldon Creed, even more so than Riley Herbst, I think had a lot of success. He won an ARCA championship, I think, in 2018, won a truck championship as well with GMS in 2020, but just has not been able to capture that same level of dominance and success on the Xfinity side of things. So, winning a championship would certainly silence those doubters, and anybody that thinks that's not possible, go back and look at what Daniel Hemrick did in 2021 when he picked up his first ever, and to date still only series win at Phoenix to win the championship with the last lap pass on Austin Cindric. I wouldn't put anything past any of these 8 drivers, given the format that we have in this series right now.
Yeah, anything is possible. So don't worry about that.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, was not on the show last week. Thank you again, Brandon, for holding down the fort with Joe there. But I want to chime in a little bit on the big news that Hailie Deegan revealed within the last week or so, week and a half, that she is moving to the Xfinity Series full-time in 2024 with AM Racing.
Are you going to pick on me again?
Well, I'm not going to pick on you. I want to take a moment to have a discussion and respond to something you say, because I did watch the show last week, and like I said, you guys did a great job. But you said something about the person that is, I think this is objective, NASCAR's most successful female driver ever, that I want to have a little bit of a discussion about as to how it relates to Hailie Deegan in the context that you were talking about last week. So we'll roll the tape here and then we'll get into it.
Sure. For sure. This is no Danica Patrick. She does have an amazing talent. It's not just purely for brand purposes and sponsorship deals. Okay.
So Brand, I've got a couple questions for you.
Right.
And you can answer them. I'm not, they're not rhetorical questions.
I feel the spotlight now. So
yeah. Let's just think about this for a second. Is it impressive achievement for a driver to be able to say they both led laps at the Indianapolis 500 and the Daytona 500.
That's really cool. Yeah. And to get the pole at the Daytona 500, that's amazing.
To finish on the podium at the Indianapolis 500.
You bet. That's
to win an IndyCar Series race.
Motegi, outstanding.
To rack up almost 200 Cup Series starts and finish in the top 10 7 times.
7 out of the 200. That's a little where I go. But it's still great,
I'm
though.
just saying there are a lot of drivers that can't even say that.
Fair enough.
I'm not. So here's my thing, and here's where I think I disagree or take a little bit issue with the comments you made last week. I'm not going to try to sit here and argue that, oh, Danica Patrick actually had a great NASCAR Cup Series career. It's incredibly underrated. Like, I'm not going to make that argument.
Sure.
But I think to reduce her entire career to say, oh, she was just there for the marketability and, the sponsorship deals and, to get her name out there.
Yeah, that was selling it short. I agree.
That to me, yeah. So that's all I'm trying to say there. And
yeah.
I don't think that that's the case for Hailie Deegan either. But what I want to follow up on is I think this is a comparison that, I think even Deegan herself tried to shy away from a little bit as she was starting her career. Because as soon as she won that first K&N race at Meridian, everybody was saying, okay, this is the next Danica Patrick. This is the next driver that's going to make it at the top level and, take that bar that Danica set and raise it to the next level, raise it even higher. I think she's tried to say, like, look, I'm not Danica Patrick. I'm just Hailie Deegan. I'm here to carve out my own name and make my own career in this sport. But I still remember seeing a tweet in the summer of 2019. Somebody said, oh, well, Deegan has 3 career wins in racing. Danica only had 1. Therefore, Deegan has already surpassed Danica Patrick.
Racing, like, define the levels here. It really does matter. Like,
and I couldn't help but sit back and think, okay, an IndyCar Series race, the top level of American open wheel racing, versus 3 wins on last lap passes where
ARCA.
she moved the leader out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, basically the ARCA level, K&N.
K&N
West, now ARCA West. And take nothing away from her. No female driver had ever done that before. She went out and won 3 races. That's an accomplishment. I don't think it's an accomplishment that puts you on the same level as somebody that led laps in Indianapolis, led laps at Daytona, sat on the pole for Daytona, finished in the top 10 in the Cup Series a handful of times and had some strong runs here or there. I know she definitely on the whole, on the average, underperformed. But, let's just hold the comparisons. And, I mean, Brandon, I know it, your comments last week kind of sparked me wanting to say this, but this isn't a you thing anymore. This is just, what I see on Twitter, the constant comparisons that get made all the time.
Yeah, I see them too.
Let's not totally discredit what Danica accomplished, and let's hold on the Deegan comparisons to suggest that she has surpassed somebody that, although she underachieved, I think accomplished some very real things in this sport. I take issue with this idea that a driver that has 5 top 10s in the Truck Series level has already surpassed a driver that had 7 top 10s in the Cup Series level. That's more where I stand on those comparisons there. Okay. If we should even be making those comparisons.
Yeah, I just when I see Danica Patrick's stock car career, I frown. That's just
and I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
It just lasted way too long, and I think the only reason it lasted so long is because of the marketability, and that's all I was always trying to say there.
Sure.
But it's apples and oranges. It's not even comparable. Hailie Deegan, like you said, is carving out her completely own career here, and a success in the open wheel world. That's amazing. But when she brought it over to NASCAR, she got some top 10s out of it. That's more than most all of startup drivers can say. So she put a lot of success into it. Yeah,
I mean, I nobody is going to sit here and try to pretend like she didn't underperform. But when I see people make those comparisons, I have to look back and say, like, what are we doing? Because I don't think she hasn't even tested a Cup car yet. I don't think she's even close to testing a Cup car yet. She just announced a full-time Xfinity Series deal. Let's see what she can do there. And then, again, I hope that she's not going to make the same mistake that I think Stewart Haas and Chevrolet made with Danica Patrick. Because I honestly think if Danica and Kelly Earnhardt Miller even said this on the Dale Jr. Download a couple years ago as well. I think it was the episode that Deegan was a guest, actually. had Danica Patrick stayed in what was then Nationwide for 1 or 2 more years, I think her stock car career might have lasted a couple more years down the road. I think she would have been better prepared for the Cup Series. I'm not saying she would have been, as successful as you would expect a Stewart Haas racing driver to be, but I think it would have better prepared her, and I would not have put winning a race past her. I think if you go back and look at some of her runs at Daytona in that junior motorsports car, if you go back and look at Montreal in 2012 and she was leading the race and some moron threw a shoe out onto the track and it messed up her car's handling and threw her back down in the mid-20s.
Yeah.
I think she had opportunities, but again, to your point, Brandon, I don't think your point was entirely off base. I just kind of disagree with where you took the conclusion to it.
Okay.
But I think the marketability allowed her to be rushed up the stock car ranks much quicker than she should have been, given that she was coming from an open wheel background.
Yeah, I mean, and
one thing, Hailie Deegan, gets this opportunity in the Xfinity Series, and we'll see what comes of it. But that they don't just decide after this deal's done, okay, we'll take her straight to the Cup Series, even if her performance doesn't warrant that. Let's see what she can do, and evaluate where her career should go from there.
Yeah, one of the I don't know if I'm gonna be able to trail this out again because I'm kind of losing myself, but one of the things Joe and I talked about last week, or I guess I brought up in the Deegan conversation, was that okay, I'm losing it. Okay, yeah, again, this was something from Moody. He was talking about how stretching Danica's career, even if they're not showing the results. Okay, I'm getting to it. Even if they don't show the results, making the exception to extend their career some more simply because they are a minority, being a female driver.
Sure.
And needing the female driver to be a presence to be there, and simply because of that fact alone, extending their career and getting sponsorship help. I don't think that's as heavily what's happening to Deegan. And I was trying to put in there, I hope there's more of a talent aspect than we need her longer. We need her here for a long time because she's a woman. I hope that's not the reason she has staying power. But Moody was saying he's all right if it is.
Yeah.
Why not? Because men, the men have had all the chances in the world. Why not? But I mean, I'm thinking that over, and it's been in my head there. And I brought that up last week, and I want to bring it up here with you again.
I see both sides of it, but I also, and again, I think this was sometime during the summer before her plans were confirmed, but somebody was calling in and asking, well, she ran solid at this one race deal that she had in 22 at Vegas, in the Xfinity Series, why not see if that might be an option for her? And Moody said, when the performance has not been there in trucks, and I think it's very hard to argue that it has been, just given the equipment that she's been in, the opportunities that she's gotten in the last 3 years. When the performance does not show those results in the third tier series, it makes very little sense, if any, to move up to the second tier series. And I get that the culture of truck series racing and Xfinity Series racing is different in many respects, but like I said when this deal was first announced, there's not real. I mean, this is it as far as I'm concerned. We went into this season saying, is this a make or break year for Hailie Deegan? I haven't seen a lot of progress, and I'm just being honest. There are 2 top 10s, in the ThorSport truck. The expectations should be a little bit higher than that, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about last week. This season has obviously been broken, yet here we are moving up. So I wanted to know what the reasoning was, and I don't think we're going to get a real answer here. But still, I wish her all the best. I really do.
I do too.
This is a breakout. Some advancement comes with the Xfinity car. Maybe this suits her driving style more, and the trucks just wasn't it because of all the downforce. But one thing she does have that she doesn't have going that Danica Patrick did, I will give Danica Patrick credit. She is on FP3 broadcast for Formula One. Hailie Deegan can't say that.
There you go.
Formula One world loves her. I mean, she gets invited to go all over the place. She represents along with Guthrie and everyone that never got noticed behind her, she represents woman in motorsport. And Haley Deegan's is destined to do the same one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, one more point on this, and then we'll move on here. I will bring up, and again, I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison because I think even this driver had some solid runs, even though he never broke through and won a race. But Harrison Burton, I think was criticized for not winning at Kyle Busch Motorsports, and everybody can remember that press conference Kyle Busch gave earlier in the year when he said he gave his truck program 2 out of 10. His drivers weren't doing fill in the blank, and then Todd Gilliland won at the end of the year at Martinsville, and I think that radio transmission was heard around the world as to what Todd Gilliland had to say about that. But Harrison Burton never quite broke through. Then he goes to the Xfinity Series with Joe Gibbs Racing, and he starts racking off a few wins.
And now he's signed up for
and now he's in the series.
And he signed up for next year too. Wood Brothers.
There you go. So and again, I know he certainly has not had that same level of success in Cup, but you got to remember this guy's younger than us here. He was born in 2000s. I think we need to give drivers more time to be able to show that promise. And so again, I'm not saying Haley Deegan's career is on death row here and that she's, absolutely got zero chance of excelling here in this new opportunity. I wish her all the best. But I think, it would be a mistake to go down the Danica Patrick road again, like we started this conversation with. I hope that we keep our expectations in check and that we also hold the driver accountable because, again, this, to me, if this year wasn't make or break, next year definitely is. Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I know she's got a multi-year deal. She's probably going to be there through at least 25, but let's hold our judgment until we get a full season's worth of results because I think 113th place finish at Las Vegas, it's a nice result, especially on debut, given the talent that's in that series. But we need to see that over the course of a full season.
I just don't want to see a bunch of wreck race cars.
And that's an important thing, too.
Yeah, I want to see finishes. I want to see top 20s, top 10s. Let's see them.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on now. There was a race in the ARCA Menards Series West at the Las Vegas Bull Ring this weekend. I'm just realizing I didn't update that heading on the script there, so sorry about that, Brandon. But we'll roll through the results here very quickly. Congratulations to Dylan Cappello for taking the win on the Bull Ring in his second ever start, his first start since 2015. And I guess if you want to get technical, his ARCA platform debut, because the West Series was under the NASCAR branding of that time with the K&N Series. Trevor Huddleston came home in second and said post-race that this result felt like a victory for the team with how much ground he was able to make up in the point standings. Sean Higurani, you see him down there in 16th, his main championship rival, the driver leading the championship by a solid margin after Landon Lewis had to step away from the series earlier than expected this year. He led the opening 124 laps from pole, but brake and subsequent tire issues led to his night being ended early and brought him back down to a 16th place finish. A lot of people are wondering now, I think, can Trevor Huddleston continue to close that gap and take the championship fight to Sean Higurani? I'd say the chances are still slim because I think Higurani has one of, if not the best cars in the field with Venturini Motorsports, but he cannot afford to have another weekend like this because I will tell you that the car counts at Phoenix usually go up quite a bit. It's a season finale. A lot of cars come out to that race. If Sean Higurani were to go out and have a similar issue on lap one or get caught up in an accident on lap one, and Trevor Huddleston can go out and win that race, that would certainly be a point swing big enough to award the championship into Huddleston's favor. So I think Higurani's certainly still the championship favorite right now, but we'll have to wait and see if he can rebound from this and get a couple of solid results. That's all he really needs at this point to clinch the championship. So with that, Brandon, let's close out the show. I'll hand it over to you first. Do you have a shining moment for us from this weekend in motorsports?
I do, because I only saw it in passing glance on some flow highlights over the past couple of days. Kind of an elder statesman of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour got his first win, and I hope Nick Loden able to get his win there at South Boston, and I thought that was worth bringing up. Also that, and really I wanted to find that because mine is also Riley Herbst, and I know you're gonna harp on that as well, but it's just I like what's going on with the Cars Tour. I like the guys that are involved with it now, and I really hope it becomes something that is featured on bigger platforms here in the future as we go now, and especially with different TV deals. Who knows what the possibilities are?
Yeah, and all the ownership into the series now, some big names from NASCAR in the Cup Series, no doubt. Well, you mentioned it, Brandon. I think the obvious shining moment, and I think you mentioned that you'll give a shining moment here in many respects as well, has to be Riley Herbst.
Yeah.
Because this, like I said at the start of the show, this was not just a first career win. This was a driver going out with something to prove, having just announced that deal for 2024, sticking with Stewart-Haas, sticking with the current team that he's been with the last couple of years now. And to go out and do this is a massive, massive statement. And like I said, 15 seconds is simply incredible. You very rarely, especially in the era of stage racing and an era where we so frequently see overtime finishes. I was just waiting for that caution to come out there at the end of the race to bunch the field back up and make things interesting, as they always seem to do. But I'm glad it didn't, because Riley Herbst was the only driver, quite frankly, that deserved to celebrate that win yesterday with the performance that he put on. Nobody was even in the same zip code as that number 98 car, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. That is my one shining moment, and that has been our show this evening. Thank you so much for watching us here on Grid Network. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and follow us on all our social media platforms: X, that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn, Threads, and most importantly, right here on YouTube. Thank you for helping us hit 750 subscribers. We're 3/4 of the way on our journey to 1,000 subscribers, so help continue to push us towards that milestone. If you really like what you saw tonight, you can take a few minutes after the show to consider joining our Patreon. Join Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew in investing in Grid Network to help keep us on the air throughout 2023 and beyond. And as you can see, our long-term goal of $500 per month will allow us to begin attending races on site on a more regular basis, expanding our coverage for you, the viewers. Or if you'd rather make a one-time donation, you can visit the link in the description box below to buy me a coffee. You can buy a coffee for your favorite on-air talent. Any amount will help us continue to grow our motorsports media outlet. And now as well, you can also donate directly through YouTube's Super Chat feature if you're watching us on that platform as well. Now on Wednesday, don't miss Grid Tonight with Kobe Lambeth, Josh Birch, and Matt White. And of course, you can stay tuned for more Grid Live coverage this upcoming weekend. As always, Women in Motorsports is back as well. We'll have that for you in the middle of the week. Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off for the evening?
I'm excited to see Homestead Miami back where it belongs in the postseason area, in the playoffs. Love that track. It's our best mile and a half in my book still. Just happy to see it back in the fall, and just looking for a great weekend for them, and hope it turns out how they want it to. And I really hope the Cup Series race is not truly a forever 400. Hope it does not take 405 miles. I hope it's 400 flat.
Well, I can't help but think it's October 16th. It's the 12th anniversary of Dan Weldon's fatal accident at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I want to take a moment before we close out the show tonight to remember him and think of the Weldon family. And on a more positive note, I do want to say I am so looking forward to seeing what Sebastian and Oliver Weldon can do over the next couple of years, because I have a feeling that 2 or 3 years from now, we might be talking about the Weldon name again on this show as they start their own rise up through the road to Indy ladder. And maybe just one day we'll see the Weldon name back on the grid at the Indianapolis 500.
That's really
again.
cool.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, and you know they'll be able to get the funding some way, somehow.
Yeah. Well, they already, I mean, Michael Andretti has already made a commitment to their careers, and I got to tell you, Sebastian in particular, I know he's a couple of years older than Oliver, but looks like he's on a really strong career path here, and I know Dan would just be so proud of what his boys are doing. So hopefully we'll see their names in some of these series that we cover here soon. In the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. For Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. We will see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.